What happens when the innocence of childhood collides with the harsh realities of crime? That's the question we're exploring today as we delve into the shocking reality of juvenile offenders. These aren't your typical tales of mischievous pranks or teenage rebellion. These are stories of severe crimes committed by individuals barely old enough to drive, some even younger. Take the case of Philip Chism. Philip, a seemingly average 14-year-old, became a chilling example of how deep the darkness can creep, even in the hearts of the young. In 2013, Philip brutally murdered his 24-year-old math teacher, Colleen Ritzer. A dedicated educator, Colleen's life was cut short in a horrifying act of violence that shook her community to the core. On that fateful day, Philip came prepared with a knife, a change of clothes and gloves. After school, he followed Colleen into a restroom where he took her life. His brutality didn't stop there. He robbed, assaulted, and abused her, then callously disposed of her lifeless body by placing it in a garbage bin and dragging it behind the school. This was no spur-of-the-moment act. It was a calculated crime by a young man who, at 14, displayed a shocking lack of remorse. His courtroom behavior further highlighted this disturbing indifference. Even as the victim's father read his statement, Philip remained cold and unrepentant. His attorneys claimed he was mentally unstable, but regardless of his mental state, the fact remains that a young life was stolen in a moment of horrifying violence. Philip Chism's story is a chilling reminder of the potential for evil that can lurk in the most unexpected of places. Let this chilling tale be a stark reminder that evil knows no age. The story of Philip Chism is but one example of the shocking reality of juvenile offenders. As we continue to explore this topic, remember, these aren't tales from a horror movie. These are real stories of real crimes committed by individuals who were supposed to be too young to understand the gravity of their actions. Yet, they didn't just understand it, they embodied it in the most horrifying way possible. The courtroom is a stage where the true character of a person is revealed. In the case of Philip Chism, a 14-year-old ninth grader, his character was laid bare in an unsettling display of cold indifference. Chism was in court for the murder of his 24-year-old school math teacher, Colleen Ritzer. The brutality of his crime was shocking, but what was perhaps even more disturbing was Chism's lack of remorse during the court proceedings. Throughout the trial, Chism faced multiple charges, including murder, aggravated rape, and armed robbery. Yet, he displayed a shocking lack of remorse, even as the devastating impact of his actions on Colleen Ritzer's family was laid bare. As the victim's father read his statement, articulating the immeasurable pain inflicted on their family, Chism remained impassive. His demeanor was of complete disregard for the gravity of his crimes and the heart-wrenching pain he had inflicted on Colleen Ritzer's family. Even in the face of a touching tribute by Colleen's brother, who urged the court to put this animal behind bars, Chism remained cold and unrepentant. His attorneys claimed that he was mentally unstable, a defense that seemed to work. In February 2016, the court imposed the mandatory life sentence for the murder of Colleen Ritzer and set a parole eligibility date of 25 years. Yet, even as his fate was sealed, Chism's reaction, or lack thereof, was disturbing. His chilling indifference could certainly be dismissed as an effect of a mental illness, but it was nonetheless a stark reminder of the darkness that can reside within a person, regardless of their age. Even faced with a life sentence, Chism remained cold and unrepentant. If Chism's case shocked us with its brutality, Brandon Spencer's case baffles us with its senselessness. Let's delve into the case of 19-year-old Brandon Spencer. A case that is less about a singular act of violence and more about the pervasive, insidious culture of violence. On Halloween, in the heart of the University of Southern California's campus in Los Angeles, a festive atmosphere turned into a scene of horror. Spencer allegedly opened fire on a crowded party. 4 individuals were injured in the shooting. Although there were no fatalities, the incident left an indelible mark on those present and the university community. In the aftermath, Brandon Spencer was detained by the Los Angeles Police Department for questioning. A couple of days later, charges were filed against him, 4 counts of attempted murder. The prosecution made a compelling argument during the trial. They posited that the shooting was not a random act, but the result of an ongoing feud between Spencer and a rival gang member. Spencer wasn't just an average student caught in a moment of madness. According to the prosecution, he was a documented and well-known gang member. This reality adds a layer of complexity to the narrative. It forces us to confront the fact that the danger doesn't always come from a lone individual with a dark psyche. Sometimes it's bred within a culture of violence, within the intricate web of gang affiliations and vendettas. Spencer's case shows us that sometimes the danger comes not from a single act of brutality, but from a culture of violence. It's a chilling reminder that the roots of such violence often run deeper than we think, intertwined with societal issues that go beyond the individual. It's a different kind of shock, one that urges us to look at the bigger picture and question the social structures that enable such violence to persist. What does it mean for a child to face a life sentence? This question, as unsettling as it might be, is one that society has been grappling with for years. When we talk about life sentences for juveniles, we aren't just discussing a legal issue, but also navigating the murky waters of ethics, morality, and psychology. The idea of a child being locked away for the rest of their lives is a hard pill to swallow. It forces us to confront the harsh reality that sometimes children commit acts so heinous, society deems it necessary to remove them permanently. Yet it's essential to remember that these children are still developing mentally, emotionally, and psychologically. They're not yet the people they will become. The case of Philip Chism is not an isolated one. There are numerous instances where minors have been tried as adults and received life sentences. For instance, there's the case of Lionel Tate, who was only 12 when he was convicted of first-degree murder. Or the case of Lee Boyd Malvo, one of the infamous DC snipers, who was 17 at the time of his crimes. These cases present a complex ethical dilemma. On one hand, there's a need for justice, for retribution for the horrific acts committed. On the other hand, there's the argument that these children, regardless of their crimes, should be rehabilitated rather than punished. Psychologically, the impact of a life sentence on a juvenile is profound. Many studies have shown that prolonged incarceration can lead to severe mental health issues, including depression and anxiety, and can significantly hinder emotional and psychological development. It's also worth noting that the United States is the only country in the world that sentences children to life without parole. This approach has been widely criticized by human rights organizations, and in recent years, there's been a growing movement to end life sentences for juveniles. These cases force us to question our assumptions about children, crime, and punishment. They challenge us to find a balance between the need for justice and the possibility of redemption. They push us to think critically about the kind of society we want to live in and the values we want to uphold. What can we learn from these shocking cases of juvenile offenders? These stories, as distressing as they are, shed light on some profound issues that are often swept under the rug. In the case of Philip Chism, we see a young man who, despite his age, committed a crime of such brutality it's hard to fathom. His lack of remorse, even in the face of a grieving family, is a chilling reminder that evil can manifest at any age. But it also raises questions about mental health and its role in such heinous acts. Are we doing enough to identify and address mental health issues in our youth? Then there's the story of Brandon Spencer, a tale not just of a single person, but a reflection of a societal problem, gang violence. It's a distressing narrative that reminds us of the destructive impact of this culture on the lives of young people. It forces us to ask, are we doing enough to provide alternatives, support, and exit strategies for those ensnared in such a life? These stories also put a spotlight on the justice system's treatment of juvenile offenders. The life sentences handed to these young individuals are undoubtedly severe. But are they effective? Are they fair? Are they the only solution? Perhaps most importantly, are they preventing future crimes and protecting potential victims? As we consider these cases, we are left with more questions than answers. But perhaps that's the point, to keep asking, keep learning, and keep working towards a society where such tragedies are a thing of the past.